Sometimes what feels like a challenge is actually an opportunity in disguise. When the incoming call volume at GSG skyrocketed, the company saw it as an opportunity to examine how they manage their contact center workforce. And what appeared to be a staffing issue turned out largely to be a scheduling and forecasting issue. And the solution to that opened up a new world of possibilities. I'm Greg Thomas from Genesis, and welcome to Level Up CX Live, where we discuss the biggest trends and challenges facing customer experience. Today, we're joined by Lauren Forte, Inside Sales Director at GSG. We're excited to talk to her about how better data and a new approach to workforce engagement management improve the agent and customer experience, reduced hold times, and increase revenue. Lauren, welcome to the program.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me on.
So glad you're here. So let's start at the top. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about GSG, and about your role there, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, my name is Lauren Fort. I am the Inside Sales Director for Graphic Solutions Group. So we are a distributor in the graphics market industry. We are based out of Dallas, so am I. We have 10 locations across the U.S., and kind of our customer base is we sell to consumables and equipment to screen printers, digital printers, and then to electrical signage. So the best way I can tell you is if you've ever seen a franchise of a fast signs, a Signorama, we provide them with the raw material and the equipment for them to make the signage that they need. And then kind of to my focus at GSG is I'm responsible for sales revenue growth, operations, and last but not least, the most important I'd say is a customer experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that's a great jumping off point. So what is the customer experience or strategy there at GSG? How would you share, why does your team exist? What's it for?
Yeah, no. So my role, like we said at GSG and my team, we are 100% and every employee at GSG is responsible for the customer experience. So I would say our secret sauce is always taking care of the customer first. We tell our employees that, hey, you will never get in trouble if you are taking care of the customer. So that's kind of the behind the scenes is what we encourage and promote our employees to do.
So wind the clock back, right? As I said in the intro, you've sort of taken a new look at how you manage your workforce. What led you down this road to realize that you had some changes that needed to be made?
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. So I'd love to say it was planned, but it definitely was not. So just like you said, rewind the clock. So let's go back to 2021 when we're right after the pandemic. Supply chain is crazy, right? It is very hard to get supplies, consumables. So our phones at GSG started ringing off the hook because again, we're just a regional supplier. We only have 10 branches. We are not servicing all the states in the United States. So we had hold times up to 10 minutes, and we have never seen anything like that before. So we were all scrambling. We were all answering the phones. We had never seen anything like it. And our first inkling was, hey, we need more people. We got to have more people on the phones. But when you think about it, right, it takes 90 days on average to train an employee. We didn't have 90 days. And at GSG, we heavily rely on our vendors and our partners for kind of just solutions and picking brains and seeing what's going on in the industry. So Genesis had been great. We had been on their system a few years in the cloud. And we reached out to our sales rep, Greg Gardner, and we kind of told him what was going on. And we said, hey, man, we are pulling our hair out over here. I'm fearful my reps are going to quit. What are other people doing? Because again, everybody was going through the same supply chain crisis. And he said, hey, let's look at a few options. So we got set up with a demo with Genesis. And one of the things they showed us was WIM, and it was a tool called schedule forecasting. And it's AI based. And they said, hey, here's what it would look like in your environment. They mocked it up, and it was a game changer from there. So from there, we took the tool and we actually identified that we did not have a people or staffing problem. We had a scheduling problem. So it was really a solutions based opportunity for us, and we took win from there.
Yeah. And so, what was it about, the ability to see the data, and like, how did you realize that it wasn't just a let's throw people at it kind of problem, and realize that no, this is really more about scheduling and forecasting and sort of how we're deploying the agents that we've got?
Yeah. So, like you said, Greg, it's really been a lesson too that we've carried into other softwares is we got to look at the data of, okay, so from the 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour, we don't have a ton of calls, but we have plenty of agents on the phone. Why are we doing that? We got to spread them out. So really just using that forecasting tool to look at, hey, when's our heaviest call volume? When do we need everybody on the phones? And then secondly, when can we alleviate them? Because our folks were stressed too. They can't answer the phone 8 hours a day. That's not realistic. Because our folks we have a little bit of a complexity where they have DID lines. So they're making outbound and receiving inbound calls on their DID lines. So it was a great tool for us to actually see what was happening within our organization.
So you talked about when that supply chain crisis hit, that the phones are ringing off the hook, everybody's answering the calls, wait times were really long. Um, when you look at what you wanted to achieve, so you talked about bringing down the wait times, but what else were you hoping to be able to accomplish as you thought about managing the workforce in a different way?
No, so that's a good question. It made us start looking at everything differently. And the funny part was, I would say when we said, hey, we're going to upgrade our license to a cloud 3, that came along with a gamification tool. And we were like, what is gamification? I have no idea. It comes with all this, right? You get this
It sounds good, right? Everybody
yeah,
likes
it sounds
games.
great. Like throw it all in. It's a bundle package. Let's do it. But ironically, how we rolled out pretty much forecasting before we even rolled out forecasting, we were looking at everything in that CX3 package and we saw gamification. And we said, hey, what is this gamification? Hey, Greg, Genesis, tell us a little bit about this. And it was actually a way to reward our employees that were really just busting it, right? Our top performers that were answering the most calls daily. It gave our folks to just kind of a carrot, right? We were giving out gift cards to the top performers. So we actually rolled out gamification first and really got them comfortable with kind of the system. And then right after that, I mean, it was a very short stint, right? Because we still have 10-minute wait times. We rolled out the AI forecasting tool and put scheduling in front of them. So it kind of went hand in hand. Gamification came first, and then the AI forecasting came second with the scheduling piece.
Yeah, and I think part of what I hear in that answer is that technology in and of itself doesn't really solve problems. It helps to solve problems, to be sure, right? But it takes people and it takes processes, and you have to deploy the technology in a way that it actually is used and can address those problems. So you talked about gamification as kind of an entry point into rolling this out to the workforce, but more broadly, how did you make sure you had the buy-in and that people understood as you rolled this out throughout the agent force that, oh, this is going to help us, and I understand what this new approach to the way we're doing scheduling and forecasting is going to help me?
Yeah, no, that's so kind of like what you said. I think you hit on two key points where I'm big on any software that we purchase is specifically related to Genesis. It was the why. Why are we doing this, right? If you just tell people to do something, are you really going to get their buy-in? So I'm big on telling our team, hey, this is why we're doing it. It's going to help you, right? It's going to help you not be on the queue for 8 hours. It's going to help you alleviate the stress, but also to take care of the customers, right? So internally, we're winning. And then two, externally, we're making sure our customers are not on the phones for 10 minutes. Because we had I believe it was like a 79% and wait time reduction. And then the other piece to that, what you were saying was kind of the technology is, I think a lot of times folks just buy the software and think that, oh, I bought the software, it's going to solve my problems. But really, there's not a one size fits all, especially with Genesis. They have so many awesome options, but depending on your business, you have to figure out what's a good fit for you. And that's what we had to figure out ourselves was, hey, this did make sense, but it worked out for us. But really just finding what's the fit and then looking at the data and making sure that it makes sense for your organization.
Yeah. So that idea of looking at the data, like, was that a muscle that y'all needed to build to sort of really understand how things were performing? Or was that like, no, we've always kind of been doing this and now we're just taking in a new set of data, if you will, from the new tool?
I think it's a muscle. And really, when we went live on Genesis, we were using an old on-prem system, and our agents did not have visibility to real-time analytics. So real-time analytics was a game changer for us. So before it was, we were looking at the reports the next morning, and well, by the next morning, you can't react. So really, it was something that we had to train ourselves on looking at the data daily, but also not just from a supervisor standpoint, but also as the agents, because they're the ones that are in the system day to day using it the most. So why would you not give visibility then to see A, their individual performance, and B, too, hey, how's the team doing, right? Are we hitting our KPIs? What's our average wait time for the day? I'll go around and quiz people and say, hey, what's our wait time for the day? Just to see if they're looking at it. So that was a real thing. It did take time, but now with all our system too, it really helps when we build our KPIs to look at the data.
Well, and I love that you're sort of talking about sharing the data, because I do think it can get lost, right? What do we really care about? What are we measuring? And giving people the visibility into that, in maybe in the same way that kind of that gamification approach brings people along, showing people how are we actually performing, and sort of we're all in this boat together. I think that's a really great way to ensure that people are doing what they can to sort of bring the whole company along. So you talked a little bit about some of the benefits that you've seen, that, the wait times went down, and what else have you observed in terms of how you've seen benefits from this new approach?
Yeah, the new approach has been, it kind of opened up our eyes to many things. Mainly, right, we're a sales organization, that's our primary goal. It has given our team the opportunity to make more outbound calls. So if we schedule it right too, it's like time blocking. If you schedule it, you do it. So it really helps, I think, our managers and our agents be on the same page and say, if they're like, hey, we have a campaign, for example, we had one where we were partnering with a manufacturer, and we had a pretty significant quota to hit. And we actually hit it because too, we're able to pull people off the phones at certain hours when we had lower call volume, and they were making those outbound calls. So that was one of the main things that we did.
Yeah, and I think when you and I had talked previously, you also talked about the idea that it is about driving sales, and it is about sort of helping with the revenue. That you've even got people now who can kind of go leave the facility, right, and go visit customers and build those relationships.
Yeah, so that is a great thing too. Is I think it's important for our sales folks. Primarily, they're making sales on the phone, but getting them out and get them customer facing. Again, we're very much a relationship driven organization, and just to go and say, hey, we have plenty of a coverage on Thursday. Why don't you go see this customer that you've been working with? Go have lunch. Go take them out to lunch. Two, hey, you just sold that printer. Why don't you go on the install with the tech? Go make sure the customer is taken care of. And two, for you to make sure that when you're selling it next time, you can tell the next customer the expectations of, hey, we need to have this in place, this in place. So really, it's benefited multiple places. But like you said, for us to give those experiences to our reps was and to our customers, right, was a big win for us.
Yeah, that's so cool. Because it is a relationship business, right? And to be able to go out and kind of have those FaceTime moments is great. Um, so you rolled this out a few years ago. You've seen these benefits. Where do you think it goes from here in terms of the continued road of workforce engagement management?
Yeah, when is with the release notes, that's the awesome thing about Genesis too. I mean, release notes come out weekly, and I'm like, they're doing what? They're partnering with you. It's exciting stuff. But like I said earlier, there's not a one size fits all option. You have to figure out what fits best for your organization. So for us, I think we're looking at the speech analytics. That is one of those tools that, like I said, our team is very competitive. And I think a lot of people look at that as just a quality monitoring tool. But really, when we look at it and I start thinking about it, it's like, hey, if we're partnering with manufacturers or we're having events, I want my sales team talking about that. Right now, today, I don't have visibility to if they're promoting an open house, if they're promoting a trade show, because the more people that we can get out to those trade shows and in front of our sales teams, the more deals we can close. So really just tracking that would be a huge win for us. And then two, rewarding them of, hey, you said this many, you pushed this event so many times. Hey, here's $100 gift card. So that's kind of what we're looking at next for GSG.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool because we think oftentimes about that kind of technology as mostly being about adherence, and that's
Mhm.
absolutely a valid and important use case. But I love that you're thinking about it also in terms of adherence to the behaviors we want, right? Not
Right.
just sort of not doing the things that we don't want to do. So that's a great way to think about this. Um, so for folks who are watching and thinking about how do they take some of these ideas into their own organization, what advice would you have for people um, to be able to see these kinds of benefits in their own organizations?
Yeah, I would say the best way is networking. Again, talk to people that are actually using the system. I always like to call it Genesis is great, but I really think talking to other users is key. When I go to the Genesis conference every year, I get so much from it and just brainstorming, right? I see, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are the next trends? Really networking and sharing the stories, the wins of success is key to me, right? I hate to hear about, the negative. Everything has negative, but the wins is kind of what I'm looking for. Who had success with it? And then two, I'll have people to ping me offline and say, hey, we're looking at this. What do you think? And I'll give my honest and true feedback because, like I said, there's not a one size fits all. I know I keep saying it, but just network, talk to others, hear how they do it. There's not, there's 10 ways to get to one place. So
Yeah.
uh, networking would be key.
Yeah. Thank you, Emma, for the comment. Um, One other maybe question on that, because one thing you brought up a couple times in this conversation, Lauren, was this notion of how do you doing what's right for your business and sort of understanding how to deploy the technology to sort of help the people to update the processes. Is there anything you would say about how you've thought through that question of out of all the things that we could be doing, all the different features and functions that are available, how you've thought through like what you should adopt and in what order that you would share as advice for folks?
Yeah, I think the one thing is I know my team, right? And two, GSG knows how our team works, and really what motivates your people. That
Mm,
is the biggest thing. Is everybody's motivated, but how are they motivated, right?
mm,
So really, the people are the biggest thing. They're the ones using it every day. And to your organization, right? Our customers are quick, fast. They need materials. Speed is huge for us, where some organizations speed isn't. So it's really dependent on looking at your people, and two, what is your business? What's your business model?
Yeah.
So
Great advice. You sort of brought in a few really important things, I think, in both of those pieces of advice, right? One, stay abreast of what's going on, stay connected to folks in your industry, but then what makes sense for your business and what are you really trying to achieve and what's the best way to bring your team along? So Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience and your strategies. Thanks to the audience for joining us as well. If you'd like to learn more about today's topic and workforce engagement management, scan this QR code that'll come up on the screen here in a second, or click the link in the comments to download a checklist on workforce engagement management. Also, please be sure to follow Genesis on LinkedIn to get notified about the next Level Up CX live show, new content, and more. And you can also sign up for our biweekly newsletter. If you like the show, please like and share it, and we'll see you on the next Level Up CX Live. Thank you.